executive session.
Second.
All in favor, come out of executive session?
Yeah.
Call this meeting to order. This time, please raise the pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Standing in as the vice chair because our chairman, Abby Simmons, is out on a hunt somewhere out west. Number 3, presentations. Do we have any presentations? None? Public hearings, none?
Adjustments to the agenda, we have at least one.
Adjustments to the agenda.
I think Pam had one too, didn't you?
Yes. I sent that to you, John. It's the contract for between EMS. Between Friendship and Waldeboro for EMS services.
Okay, that will be 10.9.
And I also had one to consider the ballot the MRC has put out to elect 3 new directors to the board of the MRC.
10.10 of the
10.10,
election of MRC Board of Directors. Any others? Hearing none. Citizens' comments. Any citizens like to say anything? You like to approach the podium and state your name? I know you are. Robert, how are you?
My name is Robert Creamer Senior. I live on Old Augusta Road. And I own 2 homes in Waldeboro, one on Route 220 and Old Augusta Road. And I'm here to complain, I guess, is what they would call it, about the road conditions in Waldeboro. I've lived here now, this is my 2nd time living here. And I've been here about 8-10 years now, this time around. So the roads are horrible. I've come in and talked to the town manager, Julie, and I'm sure she's well aware of me. And I've talked to the highway department for John Dago. And this has been a couple of years going on now about Old Augusta Road and 4 Corners, where the water drain off is, especially during the winter and March when it's icy and snowy and slushy. It does not drain and it just fills up there and you've got 2 or 3 inches of ice there. Nothing's been done to it since I've made these complaints. On Old Augusta Road, I actually filmed it, took pictures of it, and I actually dug a ditch about from me to Mr. Blodgett, and the water run off the road and went on its way down the ditch. And Julie was supposed to get back with me. I haven't gotten any calls back. So the other part is I live last house heading towards Jefferson on Old Augusta Road. So I'm at the bottom of a hill. All the water runs from Jefferson down into my yard. So in the springtime, I have 1.5 feet of water sitting in my yard until it decides to move on somewhere else. So I tried to get Mr. Daigle to kind of figure out a way to do it. And I've never heard anything back from him either.
4 Corners, which 4 Corners? Just
the one where the they were supposed to reconstruct for the last 10 years.
So you mean Old Augusta and 220?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the intersection.
That's what I thought.
Now, the other thing is, speaking of that, they installed two yellow blinking lights to slow down, and it's supposed to be a 25-mile-an-hour zone, and that doesn't happen. And lights haven't worked for a year. So that upsets me. I was in Thompson, Brunswick working, and I actually, there was a kind of the same idea hill like this, and they have a blinking, real fast blinking light that tells you approaching vehicle. So I didn't know, but maybe that could be looked into rather than them little lights that you can't even see because they're so dim. Okay,
So I can take the Old Augusta Road intersection first. So that's state.
okay. No,
So,
well, okay, that might be.
yeah,
Yeah.
that, the Old Augusta Road 220 intersection is state, and
Okay.
that's our third most dangerous intersection in town. And what has happened is this state is going to make that a four-way stop.
I've heard that.
That is what they were going to do. They were supposed to accomplish that before the end of this year. I don't know if 235 and what happened over there slowed them down. I don't know. But that is going to be a four-way stop. And I know that Public Works did everything. So we have had a very good spirit of cooperation with them. I will let them know that the lights are out again. I know when I drive.
They're not really bright enough, even if they are on, to really alert or make someone
And I can
come
tell
to
you,
light that there's a problem there.
my daughter lives on Old Augusta Road, so I spend a lot of time there, and yeah, I have to roll down the windows and look both ways, and it is, and I will tell you, people do not go 25.
No, absolutely
And
not.
We
No.
could put a officer right there at the church, and people slow down, and as soon as they're gone,
Oh, I get that. I get that.
it's just not.
Mhm.
People don't want to drive slow in this
Mhm.
town. As far as the Old Augusta Road down at your end,
It's actually right in the middle of Old Augusta where, and I showed you the
Mhm.
pictures, and it's still like that. Nothing has been done, and it's hollowed out. It fills with water, then it fills with ice. In fact, the people that live right there, trying to think of their names, Berries or something like that. They have a yard sale every year, and I was there this summer and it came up. And she said, yeah, we sit here and laugh when we see the cars going off the road and crashing and going through this big water hole that's full of thick ice, you know. And if you've ever been across the East Pond Road in the winter, when the flooding goes on there, the same thing happens, you know, that the water builds up to a 6 inches to a foot, and then it freezes, and then you got 2 or 3 inches of ice. And if two cars are meeting at the same time, the poor guy that's stuck on the water side or ice side, he's gonna end up having car problems after.
so I know John and I and you had a meeting in our office.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
I did not have time today, obviously, to have a conversation with him, but I will have another conversation with him. And Old Augusta Road is on our schedule. Was it for next year?
Should, if everything goes well.
If
it should be
everything
next
goes
year.
well, it should be next year, that from top to bottom, I guess we would do the culvert work
Well, yeah, you
first.
do all the drainage work.
We do all the drainage work first, and then the repaving. And we haven't done anything in the last 3 years.
3 years.
In the last 3 years. And some of that was because we had to make hard decisions with the budget. And we were saving for several years to be able to do a lot of these projects. So.
So,
So that is, I can talk to John about what his plan is for the winter. But the long-term plan is that, and that's, I mean, we'll still have Kastner Road to pave. We have North Noblesboro Road to pave. We have Old Augusta Road to pave. And that's something that the Budget Committee and the Select Board have had this major discussion about, and John has said repeatedly, you know, this is important, we have to do this every year.
If
And
it's,
it hasn't helped that the paving prices have doubled in the last 3 years too.
in this case here, it sounds like, and you got pictures, I guess,
Mhm. And I can forward them.
that we need
everybody.
to, if it's a hazard. And it's gonna be accidents, we maybe we can't wait to do something temporary.
I would have to get,
That'd be
I can
something
get the
between-
accident data from John too.
With
from
John.
John Lash.
No, I'm talking about up the water crossing the
Right.
road.
Well, like he said, that they had said that there's people off the road there too.
Yeah.
We got winter coming up here. If we can get some, if it's that much of an issue, maybe it's something we need to look at
Well-
a little bit closer sooner.
This is why I'm not trying to be a complainer, because
You're-
that's not my objective at all.
You are.
Okay, but I dug the ditch myself in 20 minutes, okay, and the water run through.
This is the one out by your house.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's the
right.
one.
In the middle of Old Augusta Road, okay?
Yep.
And my point with that is that an excavator could probably wipe that whole problem out in an hour. Okay, the problem is nobody ditches anymore. Okay, and so the earth has come, the dirt from sanding and all that has made a dam there, right? And of course, in the ditches, they're all full of everything, so the water's not running. So it just builds up and comes over into the road. And if that problem's taken care of, you know, the same thing, and I know East Pond Road is not Waldeboro, it's Noblesboro, but my point is, I'm sure everybody's crossed there when it's flooded, right? If they just dig a trench down across there, then the problem would be solved, right? But according to DOT, they can't do that. So my real,
And I also want to say about the ditching. Up until 2 weeks ago, it has been since 2017, since Public Works had a full crew. So that is, we have been down at least 2 to 4 employees during that 2017 period till up until 2 weeks ago, where we finally have an actual full crew.
Mhm.
So all of that winter maintenance
Mhm.
and all of that maintenance and some of the things that people have already seen
Mhm.
just in the last 2 weeks, we're hoping to address that.
well, and I appreciate that, I really do. Because I don't see the town highway department, working out and about hardly at all. Once in a while, I'll see them trimming a tree here and there, but that's it. I'm not trying to put them down, I'm not trying to put anybody down, but, nothing's gonna get done if nobody goes out and does it, you know?
Well, when you have 4 people.
Yeah. I
Literally,
can
when
realize
you
you
have
only
4
had 4 people, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, sometimes that's part of the issue
Sure.
is,
Yep.
you know, you have 4, sometimes, you know, for a stretch, we'd have 5.
Right.
And there is 100 miles of road, so
Yep.
you're not always going to see them.
Yep.
That's
Well,
why I've been trying to.
I
be
travel
more-
a lot.
I've
I
been
mean-
trying to be much more active about putting the things that they do
Mhm.
up on the Facebook
Right,
page so that
right,
people
yeah.
can see that they are out.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you should see, I mean, we are gearing up for the winter season. You know, we did and everybody should have seen, if you go to the transfer station, we prepared that road this summer for
North Hillsborough Road.
North Noblesboro Road. We redid all the drainage on that. So you should start seeing that. There was 2 Public Works employees out putting up fixing the sign that's been out front that hasn't been fixed for a while because the cost of fixing that was a little astronomical. So we had some Public Works employees that have some capability and understanding of technology out there fixing it. So there are things they're doing. And it should get improved. So you should be seeing much more ditching. And I'll just also want to point out that there are some roads that the state roads that we do not handle.
Mhm.
So
I do know that.
yeah, 220, 235, 32.
Yeah.
We do not.
So can we follow up with the state to find out on,
On the,
I asked that question a couple meetings ago. What's
And
going on with that?
Dave Allen called today.
And
I wasn't here. My daughter-in-law's having a baby and I was not in the office.
That's no excuse.
But I got his email and apparently John Lashley called him too. So I mean, I got his voicemail, but I will find out tomorrow.
Okay, and I guess my last comment would be that from a good source I have that there's been no paving since 6 years. You said 4, I think.
I'm pretty sure it was 4.
Okay. Heck, that's
I think
fine.
it was 20. I think it was 20. I think it was 20. It was right before COVID. I'm saying 2019, and it was Kastner Road, right?
No, Castner needs to be paid.
No, it was up Filers.
Filer's Corner?
It was Filers.
Yeah, because it's still there and they haven't painted the stripes yet. They haven't had time to paint the stripes. That's been paid.
That's right.
I know that.
It was Filers, and I believe it was 2018 or 2019.
Okay, so my question is this, right? And I've worked in municipalities most of my time too, and where is this money going that's allotted for paving and this
It's in the
Type of-
capital account,
capital? So it's still there from
still
4
there.
to 5 years ago?
So anything that goes into the capital account that is for road surface paving goes into the capital account. And the select board and budget committee do not rate that.
Okay.
It is still sitting there. So when we do it now, I'm rounding off numbers. So say we have $1 million sitting there. $1 million in 2019
Yeah.
would have done a lot more than $1 million in 2023.
Okay, so I'm gonna hit you with a big question.
Mhm.
How come they haven't been doing it right along if it's a better deal?
Well, hindsight being what it was, by the time we got the bids in, if you'll recall, there was a point in time where the oil prices were very, very high during COVID.
Mhm.
Well, actually, for a little bit, they were lower and then they went higher.
Mhm.
The idea was asphalt would go down.
Yep.
And it didn't.
Mhm.
And nobody could explain that.
Mhm.
So we are at that point where we're going to have to next year. I don't think they're going anywhere. They've stayed the same. I think that surprised everybody.
Right.
Even people who are in the business,
Okay,
because
Just that stretch, your stretch of Old Augusta is gonna cost 550,000 to pay. So that gives you an idea of
Mhm.
how expensive it is.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, there's roads in worse condition than Old Augusta.
Mhm.
That the snow plows are going right through and everything else, so.
Yep, yep.
So they have a priority ranking and it is on there, but next year, hopefully.
hopefully, yeah. It's got to the point, though, I own 5 vehicles, right? And I only register 2 of them. The other ones I run illegally because I'm trying to make people realize that the roads are not being taken care of the way they should be. Not just the roads, but the brush, it isn't being cut away from the roads. Some roads you go down, if you got mirrors on your truck, right, and you stay in your lane, the tree limbs hit your mirrors, okay? And I could name the roads,
well,
right?
and I appreciate that. And I'll go back to the fact that, again, when you have
4 people.
4 people, you really have to do what you can do. I can assure you, they're not sitting around doing nothing. It's just that when you have 4 people or 5, and just so you know, when you have 4 or 5, they still are entitled to vacation. They still get sick. They still have all these issues.
Mhm.
It's hard to do the stuff that, honestly, John Daigle would sit here and tell you used to get done.
Yeah.
He's the happiest he's been since I've started. Like I said, I've been here since May of 2017. We did not have a full crew then, and we have not had a full crew until 2 weeks ago.
Is that a pay thing or is it?
It was,
just-
well, I think it was a pay thing for a long time. And I think that COVID awakened everybody to when you could, and I said this about our ambulance, about our EMS service,
Mhm.
when you can deliver packages for a certain amount of money, why would you want to deliver patients? So we made an adjustment there.
Mhm.
During the last contract, we had to make an adjustment. And part of the problem is snow plowing. I'll be honest with you.
Mhm.
People, there's a work-life balance now, and it's a lot different than it used to be. John and I say this all the time. I've been around since dinosaurs roamed the earth. I have. It's been a very long time. And, you know, you used to take a town job because you love the benefits and you love the time off.
Mhm.
And it wasn't so much the money, but you worked hard and you didn't question it because you were so thankful. And pensions meant something. Nowadays, when you interview somebody, they don't care about the pension, they don't care about health benefits. It's about the dollar.
Mhm.
And finding the right people who value what a public service job will give you has been difficult.
Mhm.
So we did adjust the wages, and I think that's had an impact. And you know, Will can tell you even more because, you know, he sits in those interviews. It's like I said, it has been that. But I think we're fully staffed. It's a great crew. Everybody gets along. And I think we're on an upwards trajectory. But like I said, it has been difficult to find people. I mean, we had that help wanted sign out there for years, and we tried everything. I mean, we were posting on Monster Jobs through the state, and CDL drivers can make a lot of money in the private sector.
Mhm.
So you have to find the right person who wants to work in public service. It's a noble thing.
Mhm.
You know, it used to be fun.
Well, I guess that's it. Thank you very much for yours.
We'll follow up on you. Rob.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Yep, I'm not leaving yet. That's okay.
I would hope you wouldn't. I love it. You can ask them. I love having an audience.
Good, good.
It's a good thing.
Any other citizen comments? Hearing none. Select board comments. I guess I'll go first. I want to read something real quick. A culture is strong when people work with each other, for each other. A culture is weak when people work against each other for themselves. Just think about that. My comments, last week I attended the planning board meeting on the 9th. It was good to see the movement going on with, I call it the old 80 Gray property. Some of the old timers will call it the old high school up on the hill. The Volunteers of America came in and did the final presentation of what the building's going to look like, and the audience that was here, for the most part, everyone really appreciated the way it's going to look. I'm pretty excited about it, and I'm sure Max, was Max in here somewhere? No.
It was.
We should see some activity going on there in the next couple of weeks. Before the end of the year, we should see the activity up on the hill. It was good to see that. I was also glad to hear during that planning board meeting the enthusiasm with the board. We had a young entrepreneur in the town doing an addition to his building. And there was a small hiccup on his application, and the planning board used some common sense and let him move forward to approve that addition. As long as the code enforcement officer takes a look at the final plan, so the kid doesn't have to wait another month to get on the agenda. And because pouring concrete in the winter is not easy, so we were using some common sense there. I'm glad to hear that. I guess I don't talk about my road maintenance issues. And also this past weekend, I attended the Veterans Day event at the Historical Society. And tell you what, Jean Lawrence, former president, past president of the Historical Society, would be proud of the attendance at that function on Saturday. She started that 3 or 4 years ago by herself, out there ringing the bell. And this past Saturday, there must have been 25, 30 people there in the event. That was great. That's all I have. Bob?
I've got a couple things. Thomas College has got a deal going with the MMA, the Maine Municipal Association. Members of the MMA, which would be implicitly employees of the town, people who are associated with it, get reduced tuition in a master's degree program. if they choose to apply and are accepted. I think that's one way that we could encourage new people to come and work for the town, knowing that they could get a master's degree at Thomas with a reduced tuition simply because the town belongs to the MMA. I think that's important to pass on. There are risk reduction grants as well from the MMA. They can be used for things like backup cameras. Cameras to show what's left in the hopper when you're sanding. Proximity cameras for plow trucks. These are being, they gave out over $200,000 worth of risk reduction grants during the last fiscal year. I think that's worth looking into. And there was a lot of discussion about valuation of town buildings. And I'm just wondering whether we're thinking about maybe doing that sometime. If we haven't already done it, maybe we've already done it.
I believe we've already had our.
Yeah, there was a good.
Our meeting, and I think we've already taken advantage of some of those grants that are available for risk reduction.
Yeah.
And we do have a safety committee. And we do have quarterly meetings.
And that helps us,
That helps us all get
our rates down
reduction.
to where they need to be.
We're trying.
Yep.
And we have a good use rate.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yep.
Mike?
Yes, I see RSU 40 people here. Welcome. We're actually quite glad to see you here. We would like to start a dialogue to do the things that need to be done at the schools. And that while there may be disagreements about exactly what needs to be done, I'm sure we can hammer them out. That's all I have.
I don't have anything tonight.
Town manager report.
I would like to thank our town clerk, Pam Jameson, and her band of merry election clerks who last Tuesday did a phenomenal job. There was a new setup and I thought it worked well. I just wanted to point out that we had more voters than we did in June, but
500 more.
but we did not have the backup. And that was because the ballot, it was not, there was single pages and they were not 4 or 5 pages long. So I think there'll be some discussion coming up about getting another machine for the local, because we're going to have state and you can't commingle, or shortening our ballot, which I don't think is going to happen. So Pam had asked for that last year, actually. And one of the issues is that the state is going to be changing machines. So that was part of the issue. We asked to borrow one. They didn't have any to borrow. I was not here in June. That was when my mom had passed away. But from all the accounts that day, the line was not near as long, yet we had 500 more voters. So, and they did a phenomenal, her and her ballot clerks did a phenomenal job. And the registrar of voters was excellent too.
We were here until 2 a.m. in June processing ballots because the line was so.
I'd like to thank Pam for the guidebook that she wrote, particularly for the Citizens Initiative, the referendums. That was really invaluable.
Her voter's guide
Thank
has
you
been
so
a big hit for people, and that's, I don't think we've done that. I'm not sure that we've done that for a long time. I don't know. I can't say forever before, but not since I've been here. So that's all.
All you got?
Well, if everybody, well, I can continue. If everybody will notice, you will see behind you, there are boots. There are toys. It's that most wonderful time of the year when we distribute the Thanksgiving baskets for the Ecumenical Church Food Pantry. That will be next Tuesday, distributing those baskets. We already have 150 families signed up for food baskets for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We have surpassed the requests for coats and boots from last year and for toys. So if you would like to donate, we have a link to Amazon. If you prefer cash, come on in and see the front desk and they will be more than happy to take it. But again, this is an initiative that's done through donations and the hard work of all the elves here at the town office, and 100% of your donation stays in the program. So there's nobody getting paid to do this. It's 100% of whatever is donated goes to buy the food for the Christmas baskets and the toys if we need to. So thank you for all of that.
All right. Consent calendar.
I'll move that we accept the consent calendar, approve it.
Seconded.
Moved in second to approve the consent calendar. Any comments? All in favor? New business. 10.1 RSU 40 update.
So the only update I wanted to provide was that, as you know, the bond referendum failed. And I wanted to let you know that I received an invitation to a personal invitation from Danny Jackson to the facility meeting on Thursday. And I told him, as long as I am not in the process of becoming a grandmother, I would be there. But I would encourage all of the select board to go, since, you know, obviously we were invited. I think that would be a great time. And I think Brian's here.
Nobody asked me to come.
Okay.
But I just wanted to let you know that that's Thursday. They have their regular meeting, and I believe this meeting starts at, I want to say 4. I looked at the-
4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock,
And the regular meeting's at 7.
correct. And I haven't talked to any of my counterparts, but I had said it in the newspaper. If there is any way, you know, I think we all need to have a conversation about the best way to move forward, and not stepping on anybody's toes. But I think that, like you said, we want to open up a dialogue, and I think attending that meeting is an important first step.
Personally,
That'll be in Union, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, central office.
Brian, I am gonna try to be there. I have a utility district meeting at 3:30, and it usually doesn't take that long. I should be able to make it by 4:15 or so.
Only thing I've got to say about the in this topic is, just like I said from the beginning, there's no doubt, especially after doing those tours, that these schools need some work. There's no doubt. So I think we could put our heads together, figure out how we're gonna do it. 'Cause, they definitely need some assistance. 10.2 EMS driving policy. Chief, you have anything you want to add to that?
No, as long as you guys can slip it over, Bob and I talked about it, and as long as you guys are good with it, I'm gonna put it up to my crews, you know, tomorrow. Basically, like I told Bob, we had several policies that sort of addressed the operation of our ambulances, and I'm kind of just trying to compound those into one. Hence why it's so lengthy. It's sort of absorbing, as long as it's okay with you guys, it's sort of absorbing 3 or 4 policies into one, just to make it more uniform and easier to monitor and manage. So that's all I got for that.
Well, it makes perfect sense. I mean, how old were the other policies? It was 3 of them, you said. right?
So on that note, I'm gonna talk to Bob some more. We had, when I took over as chief, there was a lot of old policies that we're still, you know, utilizing in our day-to-day operations, but they definitely needed some revision. So I've revised them, and I'm hoping to get them out to you guys. I think Bob and I are gonna sit down together at some point and sort of skim through them. So there's several layers of the process here that won't take up so much time for the whole group, but then I'll get them out to you guys so that they can be revised. But to answer your question, John, they're old, you know, 2000, 2001 or 2. Richard did a good job when he was in the directorship position, because he updated a lot then, but you know,
Well, things have changed a lot,
They have,
technology.
yep,
And your mission and the way you conduct your business.
right. So,
I don't have a problem with the current policy, with the way it's written.
As always, Derek's on top of it.
while I have the podium,
Do you want to do 10.9 while you're here,
I
or?
didn't see 10.9. Is that the friendship?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead and jump into 10.9,
Thank
talk
you.
about the friendship Waldeboro.
So he can go home.
So basically what it is they're we're operating within that agreement with Jefferson and Friendship and us. we've all sort of beat that into our heads, but
All the towns voted to accept it. We just didn't sign it.
so basically, we were looking for a signed copy of it and realized, oh, we haven't officially signed with Friendship yet. I think, to be honest with you, Jefferson took a lot of our attention. We had to go there frequently and work through some of the questions they had. So it sort of just was an oversight on my part, the town's part. So we just gotta get it signed and then down to them, and they'll sign it. And then they're already paying based on that agreement. So their voters have passed it. So we just gotta get it official. So
It's the agreement that has existed since we started the process. Nothing's changed. It's just we somehow did not get a signed copy.
From them,
Correct.
both of them.
No,
No, Jefferson is
Jefferson's
signed.
signed,
Okay.
sealed,
Yeah.
delivered.
yeah,
Like Derek said, we spent so much time ironing
So-
that one out. And then and they vote different than we do. Because they're a March town meeting. I think in March, we just didn't get the signed copy. So it's just an authorization to sign the agreement.
And it's under your signature, right? Or
select board.
Select
Select
board
board.
is
signature.
there a select board?
Mhm.
Pam,
I believe it's here.
It's here.
So if it's signed tonight, and it lands in Julie, or I'll run it down tomorrow to Friendship
Mhm.
and hand deliver it to them.
For them to have, sign it at their meeting.
It's the same, like Julie said, the verbiage has not changed, but a word, since we just had to we were in Jefferson quite a lot, trying to, iron out some of those things. So I think we just simply, hey, cool, we all agree, and then didn't get a signature.
I
That's
think some just. March is our budget time. March is their town meeting, and I just think it didn't get done.
Do we need a motion for this now?
Just a motion
Yeah.
to sign.
yeah, motion to sign.
Make a motion to sign the agreement.
Got a motion to sign the agreement, second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor? We'll sign it.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time. Oh, you're good.
10.3, non-permanent structures for permanent human habitation. So sounds like a CEO question.
Good evening. I wanted to bring this up to the select board, and some of us have talked about this. We have an issue going on where we've got a lot of people living in non-residential structures. Mainly campers, and other structures that they're just moving into. They were never meant to be permanent residents. They were never designed for that. And it seems like it's growing exponentially as time goes on. We regularly receive complaints about these items. I am in the process of dealing with quite a few of them, and more comes across my desk all the time. Some of the issues that we face with these is there's either no septic. I went to one place just recently that basically just had the valve pulled and is dumping on the ground. There's another one that porta potties are being used. The problem with that is the state does not recognize porta potties as a permanent place, for, discarding your waste, human waste. It is a problem. You have issues of no running water. If you have a hose line running across somebody's yard, going from a house to a camper, that obviously is going to freeze. They're not going to be able to maintain that. You have, some safety issues. One of which in particular is we have people that are actually cutting holes in the top of their camper in order to put a chimney pipe out through so that it can run a wood burning device inside their camper. I can only, cringe every time that I see something like that on the street and I hear stories. I'm sure most of you have heard about, where was it, just recently?
Winslow. No.
Windsor.
Windsor.
Windsor
Windsor
just had a
had it last
fatal
week.
fire in a camper. 25 years old. It's not like it was some elderly person. We're talking about a kid. Being a member of the fire service for as long as I was, there's a couple things that stand out. These things scare me because people are doing that, and I'm afraid that someone's going to get severely hurt, injured, killed. And I don't want that. I would much rather be the bad guy in town that is forcing these people to find, some safe places to to reside. But nonetheless, it is an issue. Most of these campers, they do not comply to the egress codes of NFPA 101. They are not built to the standards that any residential structure is built to, not even, mobile homes. Mobile homes are built, they come with a certificate that is actually taped to the inside of these units that basically states that it is built to a certain standard for Maine. It is a Maine sticker that goes on these things, and we have to inspect those to make sure. So a large amount of these campers, obviously, they have a great amount of plastic and composite materials. When they burn fast, and they go up quick. They don't give a lot of warning. And I question whether or not a lot of people are even using smoke detectors in there. Sanitary issues. If you don't have running water, how are people cleaning themselves? You can't run a shower. And then if you do, how are you going to get rid of the water? It goes into a holding tank. Most of those are 10 to 20 gallons. So there's major health issues that go along with this too. So my reason for bringing this forward is I would like to present to the board at your next meeting. I'm being very cautious to construct a policy that would make it a little bit clearer. The state law already prohibits this activity. However, you have to go to specific lines and specific codes in order to come up with what it is. And it is not very clear to people that it's not, a prohibited act. I would like to come up with something, but I want to make sure that we're not restricting people that are out there doing the right thing, owning campers, using them accordingly. So I'm being very diligent about how I write this before I present it to you. So, but my feeling is that this is a safety concern. I do have, like I said, a background in the fire service, and the former fire chief of the city of Portland was one of my deputy chiefs, and he had a hair-raising story about the Noise Street fire that killed 5 people. The problem is that when something like that happens, everybody does this. And then all of a sudden they want to blame enforcement, the fire department, they want to blame everybody under the sun. So it's not a really popular thing that I bring to you. I think of it as more of a life safety issue than I do trying to eliminate somebody's residence. That's not what I'm looking to do. I've had multiple conversations with Karen Ann about how we can assist these people. And she is working with me on a case-by-case basis to get people whatever they can. But it is a problem, and it's continuing to grow. But to make the short of it, at your next meeting, I will present a draft and for your review, so that hopefully we can take care of that situation. So, yes, Bob.
We're covered by state law. That's what I'm hearing from you. I mean, if we don't have an ordinance of our own,
Yes.
we go by what the state says.
Yes,
So what
but-
I'm hearing you say is you'd like to draw up a pamphlet that you would hand out to people?
It would be basically an ordinance for town that would define what the camper is. A lot of the laws and the way they're written is you can't have you have to be hooked to a subsurface wastewater.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody goes out and does that, okay, well, now I got to go to the next thing. The next thing is you can't, occupy it greater than 120 days. You get people that want to circumvent that and say, well, I didn't occupy it on this date. So it becomes a nightmare trying to, weave through all the state legislation that's there. There's stuff in there, but it becomes repetitive with people trying to circumvent around and saying I've got heat tape, so I'm running it, that way. It still doesn't make for a permanent structure.
So what I'm hearing is you want to actually draft an ordinance,
Yes,
a local ordinance.
a local ordinance for Waldeboro that basically defines the use of campers and the restrictions that are there. Most of that language is going to involve quoting the state laws and stuff like that so that it falls in tune. I don't want to be any more strict than what the state has, or the federal government. But, I do want it so that it is clearer for people to understand and something that we can get out to people. And that's something that, we need to do is we need to look at, housing issues and how can we help these people as well. So I want it to be a twofold thing, not just campers are bad. I don't want that to be the idea.
What does
Mike.
this,
Go ahead.
what does the state prescribe as remedies for repeated violations?
It's up to local code enforcement officers to provide the inspections and stuff like that. So all of
Does
that
that
falls on
include-
us.
Eviction.
Yes. Yes. I have one that I've served notice of violation on. He's on his second letter. And he has 5 campers on property. I do know of one that's moved out. I need to do a reinspection on that, but a lot of times it is people that are collecting rent and taking advantage of people that want to find cheap alternatives instead of finding a rental property and stuff. So this one was actually called in by a state worker who went down there to do an assessment, and she came back and filed a complaint that about the poor living conditions in that location.
And we don't have to look to Windsor. We had,
No, we had one here in town.
well, we've
Yeah, I
had
know.
3
Yeah.
since I've been here.
Mark, isn't there already something in our land use ordinance?
There's definitions about campers and camping
Right.
as far as campgrounds, but it doesn't get into the specifics as far as, campers aren't allowed during XYZ.
Well, it
or-
says you can't, and I know this because when I was building my house, I was living in a camper. I was worried out to me in it too long. But it's a certain amount of time that you have to,
120 days, yes,
120, right?
Right.
You have to be,
right, but it doesn't say continuous days. And then you get into the, well, you got to prove when I was in here and track that, and it becomes somewhat difficult in order to do. It's there and we can use that. But I think that we need to take a look at that and make sure that it's defined properly. And there's other things that people are doing things the right way. I've got one on Bremen Road that basically came to me. He put a deck in front of his camper. His camper is on the lot where his daughter and son live. And he comes up once in a blue moon, stays there, and helped out with the kids this summer as far as babysitting. He is not residing there. He has no intentions. And that's perfectly fine. We don't want to go after those type of people. We just want to make sure that people, if they're going to live someplace, they're living safe.
So if this is gonna be an ordinance, we're gonna have to either do it in June or have a special town meeting.
yeah, goes with
Yeah.
voters. Yeah,
Comments?
into this, sure, go ahead.
Okay.
State,
But
you
you
can't,
should stand up because otherwise people
we
can't.
don't know who you are.
Hi, my name is Kay Whitner, and I'm here tonight because I'm on the board of CHIP. I visit these people. Don't always turn them in. Don't usually turn them in. Where are they going to go? That's my question. They're staying in a camper in a lousy place being rented out. And I agree. You look at these landlords and you say, how can they charge you $800 a month for this? They don't have anything. They're cold. They wouldn't live there if they had any other choice. Let me tell you. So now you go around, and I'm saying everything you said here is perfectly true. I'm not questioning any of that. It's not safe. It's not good. It's not ideal. But now you're talking about putting somebody out, and they don't really have any place to go. Just want you to remember that. They wouldn't be living there if they had any other choice. People try to help them. I know Karen Ann works with them. I know Stepping Stone works with them. But they don't have any places. You know, it's heartrending. So I just want you to understand that there's a human equation here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And we got to be careful with that. And I'm not talking just about, 25-year-old single person. Sometimes it's people with kids.
And I think that's where all of us struggle with this is what do we do? And I mean, we are very blessed to have the community navigator position and believe me, she's found housing. I don't know how she does it. I honest to God, sometimes I don't know how she does it. But it's this double-edged sword of, we know it exists. We know there's issues. And once they're reported, we have an obligation to do something, because if we don't and something happens, then that puts the town in a bad, this is a struggle. I mean, we see it happening all over. Like you can just turn on the news. It's happening in Portland. It's happening all over. It's how do we address it and I think that's part of Mark's struggle is how do I do my job and how do I be a good human? I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Really,
I mean,
it's tough.
that is exactly what we're talking about here. How do we protect the town from the liability of some of this and be a good human at the same time? And that's a daily struggle. And when I said about Windsor, one of our most beloved residents, barely got out, literally got out in their underwear. And luckily we're able to find accommodations. We had a well-publicized issue on North Noblesboro Road. And that's the problem. Like you said, Mark, to your credit, it's the wood stoves in campers. It's the septic on the ground. There's a lot. And I don't think, just so you feel better in a way, I don't think anybody, and especially Mark, because this has been a conversation in the office, I don't think any of us have the magic bullet or the answer. But I think it's wonderful that you're reminding everybody that what happens if we have to say move along and where do you go? Because you're right. It's not just 25-year-olds. It can be 80-year-olds, and then it can be people with children. And I would say that in my history here, that's been the most reporting that's been done is when it involves a child and the living conditions.
Could I ask a question too? Is it legal to have tiny homes?
Tiny homes are legal.
What's the big difference between a tiny home and a camper?
Good, Mark. Yep.
So tiny homes are legal. They basically are made to the building codes. So they're just really small. And the state is trying to work their magic in order to get these things moving along so that they're a little bit easier and less expensive, and we can somehow work with the crisis that we've got as far as housing. So some of them, there's a tiny house on wheels, which is actually in Maine. And the state has just gone through not that long ago and approved them for sending them out. And they treat them similarly to mobile homes, where they have the sticker, which basically says it was created on a site. It was inspected, so it meets, Maine codes. And then here you go, they can drop them down. I think that right now there are not enough manufacturers out there creating them, and this company in particular is right out straight. As fast as they can build them, they're shipping them out.
But they still need the
So-
septic system.
Yes, they still need septic systems, they still need water, a well, they still need all the things, and they meet all the codes. And that's where we get into the problem. And you are absolutely right about the housing situation. There is no easy answer to that. If I had the answer, man, I'd be a rich person right now. But you're right.
Yeah, just a couple of issues. With regard to septic systems, I noticed that the plumbing fees include a $200 fee for a primitive system. In other words, an outhouse.
Yes, I have one
that-
that was just,
Is that legal?
no,
Is
it's
that-
not a. Let me back up. There are some regulations that would allow that, but you still have to have a system put in place to capture any gray water for washing and stuff like that.
Okay, understood.
Okay. A lot of them, what they choose to do in this case, there's a gentleman that came in and submitted a permit. He is using a composting toilet and he is building a gray water system to capture all of his wash water and stuff like that. It doesn't require a tank. It's less expensive for him to go in and do that. But yes, it's perfectly legal. So there are options rather than putting in a full system, but it has to fall into the state guidelines on what is acceptable. So
I hope that makes it into your brochure. The other thing that I would like. November is a heck of a time to be talking about evictions. When you read this proposed regulation, I would something to the effect of, say, May 1st, the evictions notices can be enforceable and they stop being enforceable, say, October 31st.
What I do right now is I do not do anything until somebody complains about it. If I get a complaint, that's when I go out and then I address those issues. I have not gone out to seek that because I'm busy enough with all the rest of the work. And there is plenty out there. I have addressed only complaints that have come across my desk. And my thing is to try and get people to voluntarily take care of the issue. And
I agree, that's absolutely the right approach. But if in extremis, I can't see throwing out people on January 2nd.
I agree.
It's got to be in reasonable weather.
Right. And I'm willing to work with people to try and get things straightened out.
The situation that Mark referred to, though, they've been working on that since the summer. The one with multiple campers.
But if that multiple camper issue, if push comes to shove, I could not in good conscience throw somebody out in the middle of winter. So just make it effective sometime when it's above freezing. Months when it's going to be above freezing.
I remember back in the day, we had this discussion before and I was just asking the question. I believe the town says that you have to have at least a 14-foot single wide. Otherwise, it's not legal. However, I know they make smaller ones. So I don't understand why we could have a tiny home and yet not allow a 10 or 12-foot single wide, since they're built to apparently correct specifications.
The only thing that we look for is that state seal. Max might be able to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, so the 14-foot wide issue was something that I actually tried to work with the planning board after one of the places burned down on North Nobleboro Road. And I talked with Ralph Wings Homes at the top of the hill to see how often they sell something under 14 feet. And they said very rare. And it's almost just as expensive to make something that's under 14 feet. So people will just buy the 14-footer. And if there's just some pre-existing ones that are under 14 feet that are already in town, I'd have to look at some specifics on dates and everything, but it's in town already. And if it got a permit, it got a permit. But that's sort of the answer to the 14-footer. There may be some that already do it, but some people just get the 14-foot anyways, because the prices usually come out to the same price. And that's what the planning board solution was at the time as well. And it just hasn't been a revisited issue.
We look at that at some point and see what the least expensive mobile home is and make sure that as long as it's certified like it's supposed to be, we could allow that.
As in what, like Ralph's Homes offers, or just anyone in the Mid-Coast? Or
I'm just, are we talking mobile home or park model home? There's a difference. You go to I'll use Town Line Camps for example. You got a seasonal camp. A lot of these folks will bring in these park model homes like you see in Florida. Park model homes, because they can be picked up and driven down the road. Is that what you're talking?
No.
Those wouldn't have the seal that Mark's talking
No,
about.
When I was researching this, how
2
long
years
ago
ago.
was that, 2 years? And it turned out that when I went to find the price list at the Ralph's and at Boats, they had cheaper homes available than the minimum one that was required by our ordinances. So that's what I was wondering at that point. Why can't, if we're gonna allow a tiny home, which is tiny, why can't we allow for the least expensive models of regular mobile homes certified, in the town? Why do we have to make them, why do?
Is that in our ordinance? It has to be,
It has to be
There's
14
minimum.
feet wide, yeah.
14 feet wide.
And that's been in, I think, since 2005.
that'll be looked at.
The problem I'm hearing isn't necessarily about the structure. It's about how you hook it up. And you can go to a vacant lot somewhere in the middle of the woods and you're not gonna have septic and you're not gonna have water, and that is not allowable. That's the issue where I'm sitting. If you find some guy who's got a lot and can accommodate 5 of these homes on a temporary basis, no more than 120 days, with septic and with water, that's legal. But what he's doing isn't legal. And it doesn't make sense. It's not helpful to the people who are using the site.
I understand that. My question is, if you can go to Ralph's and you say, I have no money, what's the cheapest one I can buy? And the town is not gonna allow you to buy that one, even though it's perfectly okay as far as.
She's saying even if you
Fire
had the
codes,
septic, even if
Everything. is
if you
okay.
had the septic and you had the well,
I think that'd be a case by case variance.
why wouldn't you
Waiver
allow a mobile home, one that's certified, that was smaller than
certified
14
I
feet?
agree.
Well,
If you're gonna allow tiny.
and that's the other thing. We do offer waivers.
Waiver.
It always comes down to, it is a case by case basis and up to the approving authority.
And that goes by the planning board.
Yeah.
Well, if it's just a single
Or the
manufactured
code
home, it
enforcement
would be the
officer.
code enforcement officer.
Yeah.
But if it's like a mobile home park, it would be the planning board. And just another point on the RVs, even if we want to make an argument that it's a campground, we still even have in our land use ordinance requirements that campgrounds offer sanitation facilities like an actual bathroom, an actual place for people to shower and everything. So even these gatherings that are happening, there needs to be something to actually allow people to have some sanitary conditions like what Mark was pointing out earlier. I assume that's all my questions, unless I'll let Mark get back.
Anything else, Mark?
No, that was it for that, so. Be back in a minute.
You'll be back anyway.
Permit fee schedule, who's that?
That's Mark, right? Permit fee schedule.
So I handed out to you, a cleaner copy so that you can actually see it. What I've done is I've taken a look at some of the fees. Some of it was not clear. We were charging people for certain things, but it wasn't spelled out. And I wanted to do a better job of trying to list everything so that everybody can see what it is that they're being charged. We can publish it and hopefully it's a little bit clearer as far as an understanding. So what I did was the sheet that you have has the current fees and then the proposed fees. And some of them went up slightly, and I tried to base everything on the fact that it depends on what we're looking at for inspections and time commitments from the office as far as what we need to do. So the more time that we spend having to do multiple inspections, say, for instance, if you're doing a residential inspection, I need to do a footing inspection, I need to do a foundation inspection, I need to do a rough frame-in inspection, I need to do a plumbing inspection, I need to do an insulation inspection, and then I need to do the certificate of occupancy at the end, making sure that everything goes right. So there are multiple inspections that have to take place on these. So what I tried to do is take a look at some of them. Some of them went down. for instance, I remove mobile homes from residential structures because a good portion of that, as far as the internal plumbing, is all done by the state. I just have to make sure that that has the state sticker on there. And then I gotta go through the rest of it and make sure that the pad was put in properly. So there's a lot less inspections that go into a mobile home. Therefore, I took it out of that and I reduced that down to the 20 cents per square foot. I felt that it was a lot more in line, so it's less expensive than it would be if it was a residential. But it's more in line with what my workload would be. Residential reservations and commercial renovations, those I propose to increase. We were at 7 cents for a residential renovation, and part of the problem with a residential renovation is there's a lot of work that goes into that as well. Framing, making sure everything meets code as far as that goes. And you have to do a certificate of occupancy at the end of that as well. And then if there's any plumbing, that would go into it as well. So there's a lot more to it than just the simple, oh, it's a renovation. Same thing with commercial. We did not list the solar. So I have added that. I'm sorry, up further, you'll notice that under accessory, which is storage, I've reduced that one down. That one takes probably the least. So that's more of a site evaluation to make sure that it's where it's placed in conformity to the setbacks so that there's no issues as far as that. But from a standpoint of how it's built, it's a very easy inspection. So I felt that was actually high. So that one actually got reduced. Yes.
It's just a question, solar installation,
Mhm.
it's 30 cents a square foot. Is that the footprint or is that the square footage of the panels?
It's a square footage of the panels. So so each panel is 1 foot by 4 feet. So then it's 4 times the number of, and then it's multiplied by that, but it's the number of panels and the square footage of the panels themselves. So,
I'd clarify that.
okay. Parking lots, that was in there. It was just never listed. So I've added that. Yes,
Heat pumps.
yes.
So you mean tell me we're gonna charge a permit fee to someone put a heat pump in the house?
The recommendation from the state, this was something that the state has actually been bringing up. The drain tubing that they're installing on these units is not to code. They are having all kinds of issues with the people that are putting these in not following what they're supposed to be following as far as the condensate trains. and stuff.
I understand because I was an installer for heat pumps.
Okay.
But it's hard to, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's hard to justify. We're telling people to save on the fossil fuels and
Yeah.
go green and put these heat pumps in, but we'll give you another $50, we can charge, we can have a permit here.
We don't
But
have
who,
to, I mean,
but who's inspecting them?
I would, as a plumbing inspector, that is part of my duty is, and according to Mike Day at the state, who oversees the plumbing department, his basic recommendation is that it is a drain pipe and it should meet the code. And the ones that they're putting in right now are the little plastic flexi tubes. Okay, and they do not, the problem with those are they degrade over time, and now you have a leaking pipe inside your wall, and it's not piped to code.
You're gonna be hard pressed to get an HVAC installer to come to you and say, tell me I can't do that, when the manufacturer says I can use that tubing.
I can only tell you what Mike Day is telling us from the state. That's where it came from.
On the same line, what about heat pump water heaters?
Yeah, same thing, heat pump
They-
water heater.
they
Well,
put-
you should have a permit for a water heater anyway, which I look on for any water heater, you gotta have a
Correct.
permit.
So for a replacement water heater, you gotta get a permit.
Yeah, if your water heater craps out at home, and you need a new one, you're supposed to get a permit before you go to Lowe's and buy one.
Okay.
And why is that?
Because they wanna make sure they're put into code. Make sure you have the relief valves on there, you have the proper distance for copper versus plastic piping.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that goes into those, and I know it's kind of. But yeah, you have to have copper within 18 inches of the water heater itself, because PEX, they claim that it might melt, but nobody can prove it.
So should heat pump water heater be added to this list?
Well, the water,
That
that's
would be
all,
done under
that's all
plumbing
covered
inspection.
under
What?
the plumbing
Okay.
application.
Those are all plumbing codes,
I still have a hard problem with heat pump one.
and that's fine. I mean, if you know, if we wanted to remove that, we can easily do that. I was just following suit with what the state recommendation was. They were trying to push that issue, and it made sense to me, you know, saving somebody's house from a water leak 5 years from now when those tubes disintegrate and leak into the wall. You may not notice it. It's such a small drip. It's gonna cause mold issues. That's where the thought pattern was.
Yeah, it's all based on how it's installed too.
It can be, but what I'm being told is the piping is not very conducive to longevity. So, but I'm fine. I mean, I would definitely take recommendations if something wanted to be changed. Some of these, basically, all it did was just add the words application to them so that we were charging the application fee. It just wasn't listed. So I just wanted to be consistent so that once somebody can look at it and go, okay, this is what I'm being charged and why. One of the new ones that I did add is the demolition permit. This one has to do with concerns that there's a lot of hazardous materials, oil tanks, asbestos issues. There's a bunch of different things that take place when it comes to demolition. And the state has guidelines on how things can get, you know, taken away, versus being buried in somebody's backyard. So one of the things that we were looking at is twofold. One, the property needs to come off from the tax maps if it's being torn down. And two, it would be nice to do at least a one-shot, you know, inspection to make sure that the individual is tearing it down knows if there is any hazardous material in there and you know, the proper procedure on how to get rid of that.
There's a typo there, Mike. Demolition has a T, not an S. Hey, Mike, I'm sorry, Mark.
Not a problem. Same with the change of use, occupancy, or home occupation. They were just not listed. However, we do have permits for those. Short-term rental, I brought this up because this has been something that we talked about before, whether or not we wanted to do short-term rental. And my feeling towards that is it's a probably not a very popular thing. But again, getting back to this, are we having somebody that's renting space in a basement that has no means of egress and we have no idea about it? My feeling is that we should be doing an inspection to make sure that they meet all the egress codes that are out there. And then this is just a way to capture some of that. I've tried to keep the fee down so that we can do that, and figure out who is out there and that they are doing it right. Again, it's gonna be one of those things. Did we know about it? Did a fire occur? Did somebody die? And then the finger pointing starts. So, my feeling is it would be nice to be able to go in. It doesn't have to be a yearly thing. That's something that we could talk about, but my feeling is if we can get in, take a look at these places and make sure that they're safe for occupants coming in, then we're good to go. My three things that I look for is basically egress windows, that they may meet state requirements for egress size. And then there's two means of egress, and then do they have working smoke detectors and CO detectors? To me, those are minimum things that we should be inspecting for to make sure that those places conform to safety standards to help protect the people that are coming in. These people that are renting these places have no idea until they get there whether or not any of these safety features are there. And there's a lot of people out there that just don't know, you know, what's the difference between an egress window and a non-egress window. So I think it behooves us to be the ones that are policing that for the people that are coming and visiting Waldeboro. So
Are you talking like Airbnb?
Airbnbs basically go through the state, so they get inspected through the state.
They do.
Yes, and then there's an Airbnb in town, not an Airbnb, excuse me, a B&B.
A B&B, yes. I'm talking Airbnb. Someone's,
They may have to, depending on how far they go. If they are renting to multiple people for a structure. It may fall into that where they have to take a look and conform to different standards. So, but yes, Airbnbs would be, one of the ones that we would be looking at. As far as trying to get in and make sure that they're meeting code.
Mark, my wife and I own a cottage that we rent out through Airbnb. I'd like you to come out and inspect it.
Absolutely. I would love to. I would love to visit every one of
make sure you
these.
pay your fee first.
Tell 'em.
I'm sure Mark won't forget.
The other thing that I had on the first page is basically a reinspection fee. This one I'm bringing forward because I'm getting it's not bad now, but I can see it happening more and more, where I'm getting people that are trying to either do it themselves, or I've actually had one contractor that I've had issues with where I've had to do several re-inspections because of violations. To the point where I've actually had to get the state involved. My feeling is that everybody makes mistakes. I'm not looking to slap people with fines and stuff like that, but after the second time of going out there and explaining what it is that needs to be fixed and why, to have to come back a third time, and do this all over again, to me, we should be charging them something for my services to have to come out there repeatedly. It also gives them an incentive to make sure it's done, at least by the second time, so that it's all set. But I'm not looking, everybody makes mistakes. I'll go out there, I'll do a re-inspection. I don't have a problem with that. But after the second failed, to me, there should be some type of a fee associated with that. And that was my suggestion. The second page basically has to do with nothing has changed. It is just how we're laying it out. Some of the stuff was not listed. And I've tried to clean it up a little bit and make it a little bit easier to understand. The only thing that I did not add that I will be is on the internal plumbing fees. It says $15 per fixture with a $60 minimum. That is a 4 fixture minimum that's set by the state. So I need to add that to that, but that would explain why that is set that way. So,
Yeah, the state does that.
yes.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yeah, if the board chooses, yes.
Yeah, I'd make the motion that we accept Mark's fee schedule as amended.
Motion's been made, second.
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, just, we did make some recommendations about clarifying the square footage, as discussed, I guess. Yeah. So,
That's the change you're gonna make is just clarification of that.
Yes, I have the clarification. There was a typing up one, and also to clarify on the solar, how we calculate those.
And there's
Those
also
square
a
foot.
typo on res inspection. It should be re-inspection. Very last line on the first page.
Jeez,
Sorry.
didn't have enough coffee this morning. I'm sorry.
No,
All in favor?
you should
fat
see mine.
fingers.
All in favor? Opposed? I'm gonna oppose it because of the heat pumps. Sorry.
Should I stay here or
Um,
under old business? So I don't.
yeah,
know.
wait till old business. Okay, 10.5 committee application. Mike Amico, you wanna? talk about it?
Sure. We interviewed Mike and he's got a PhD in American history. And he wants to be on the Economic Development Committee. I'm sorry, the Sylvania Committee. And I sit on that committee and I think he'd be a pretty good fit.
Mike's here today, so welcome.
And thank you.
He's here every time.
It's good to have new people in the committees.
You want a motion?
Motion,
Please.
we have a motion?
Yeah, I'd move to appoint Michael Avico to the Sylvania Development Committee.
And I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Welcome aboard.
Take one down, pass it around.
10.6 Town Office Business Hour Discussion.
Want to turn that over to Pam?
It should be exact.
You use this one.
So you guys didn't get this because I was wicked busy last week, but you have a copy of the times and hours of that the town office has been open, and Rose, when she's out there and I'm in here, has had nothing to do because nobody is really showing up between 6 and 7. So and Rose is not here tonight. She had something going on. And you can see at the bottom, we kind of averaged out how many people are coming into the town office at these particular times. And when the town office was open to 7:30, oh, I should point out that the things that are highlighted in yellow are customer transactions, not transactions that are done behind the scenes. That would be actual people. At the top, you'll see the dates, and we did the first copy, you can see it's only about 2 people average per hour between 6 and 7. So the suggestion is changing our hours on Tuesdays from being not being open 9 to 7, but being open from 8 to 6, coming in at 8 in the morning. Because as you can see on the other days where they were open earlier, and that's again the times at the top, there's like 5 average, 4 average, 9 average.
Amy, you're losing me. What page am I looking at?
I'm sorry. Page 2. See, it says pre-COVID. The town
Okay.
office was open early in the morning.
Cause you were open at 7 then?
I wasn't here actually, so I don't know if it was 7 or 7:30.
I believe it was 7:30.
7:30. There was approximately 5 people per hour at that time in the morning. On page 3, it's from January 2019 to July 2021. And that was from 7:30 to 9. And there's about 4 people in that time average. On the back page, this is from 8:30 to 9. There was 9, average of 9 people. So I guess what we're saying is people like to go out in the morning and not out after supper. And I agree.
So this is always the big discussion always. And, you know, you'll see it on Facebook every once in a while, it rears its head. And when it was broached to me about what I thought, I said, well, the numbers, we have the data. The data will tell you when people want to come in. And it would seem to be that people would like to come in the morning versus staying late at night. And the staff is willing to make the change. And we coincided when we made this decision to stay late on a Tuesday was we were hoping more people would pop into our select board meetings. And I don't think anybody's ever been out there doing anything and walked in and said, oh, let me participate in the select board meeting. So part of what we thought was going to happen did not happen.
Rose and I have worked out that non-select board Tuesdays, we would both be here from 8 to 6. Select board Tuesdays, since I have to stay to the meeting, I wouldn't come in until a regular 9 o'clock because I'm here till 7 at least. So.
But nobody will ever be left alone.
Nobody would ever be left.
Does this really encumber anybody, somebody who has a job and can't make it during regular town?
No matter what we do, no matter what we change, there will be somebody who's not happy. And I'll hear about it tomorrow on Facebook, I guarantee it. you know, we changed it to try to extend hours. Then COVID hit. Then, you know, and I just want to point out too, the office staff doesn't work 40 hours.
Yeah, they only work 36.
They work 36 hours. They've never been reinstated those hours since COVID, when the budget cuts happened, because as we found out when we did the poll, when we do the poll and want to say, should we restore people to 40 hours, or it's in front of the budget committee, that there's not a real hue and cry, except when somebody can't get something done that they want to get done. The other issue that we have since COVID is we are electronic now, so you can re-register. You can re-register your boat all online, which we did not have that capacity before COVID. So
Is a link to doing that on our page? On
yes,
our town hall
Yes.
page? Yeah.
rapid renewals on our page.
There are
You can
very-
even pay your taxes online.
There are very few things that you can do online electronically, and I think that's down to just vital records, getting a birth certificate.
And you can't register a new vehicle online. But you could go, you have to pay your excise tax here.
Mhm.
It's, and the one thing that always gets me is, well, Facebook gets me. Because it's much easier to complain on Facebook than call up the town office and say, hey, here's my issue. I have to work, but I need this done. And guaranteed, if you called up and said, hey, this is my situation, we normally try to work things out.
I have an example of that. A couple came in to make, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
Please.
They were engaged for 3 years, getting married on Saturday, never came and got their license. I don't know why. So they got here, didn't have the right documents. Thursday night, 10 minutes to 5, literally. Still didn't have the right documents. And I came in and met them on Friday because they were getting married. How could they not get married after they've been engaged for 2 years? That's a side note.
So that's, but it's just that type of stuff that, you know,
I've met people
Okay.
here before.
we do try to go above and beyond. It does help if you're not using bad words at us when you ask us that. It really does help if you don't.
There's been
use
many
bad
a
words.
Tuesday night, especially in the winter, where we really sat and just chatted. There's nobody in here.
Were you here by yourself on that Friday? Sorry, just a rhetorical question, but it does concern me. Because if that's the rule, and it's a good rule to have because it's for your protection, then I would be careful about volunteering when nobody else is here.
I was not, because somebody was here, Derek was here at EMS. So
Yeah, you were very, very nice to do that.
it's hard when they're crying.
And to be honest, we know most of our people. I mean, we really do know most of our people.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes you don't know.
Yes,
So what you're proposing is 8 to 6 on Tuesdays,
correct.
but everything else remains the same.
Except when the select board meets,
Right, yeah.
But just for me.
Just for
so-
her.
just for you.
Yeah,
I don't think we ought to micromanage the hours you work.
No,
You know, I just think you know better than we do. And if this is what you think is what kind of best,
You just have to bless it.
if it doesn't work, we go back.
Right. I mean, we've been trying to accommodate people for the last 6 years. Of trying to make it easier for people.
can,
And Daryl's here, except for Thursdays, so.
any problem with starting this after the new year?
We'd have to advertise.
Just to keep it simple so people know. Got a motion?
if we need one, yeah, I'll make the motion that we go with what's been presented to our office hours.
Second. All in favor? Starting January 1st.
Thank you.
Where am I? 10-7. Well, there's a lot of stuff today, huh? Rec department. Talk about the playground again, Marcus.
Can you go up to the podium?
We'll see. Hopefully the last time. I got an email from Eric Wetzel at Maine Recreation and Design. So last time we talked, we approved the playground months ago, providing funding. Max and I have been working on a grant. Nothing's come of that yet. It's still being worked on. But if we if we don't approve funding tonight, then we're not going to be guaranteed the same price that we voted on months ago. It's when we talked before, it was come this time of year was when they're going to see their price increase, and if we don't get to it now, I got him to hold off until today so I can meet with you guys to guarantee that price. So if we had talked about before, if how the grant was coming, if it was looking okay. I don't know anything about that yet. And Max, and I haven't heard anything. Yeah, nothing yet on the funding of the grant. But we talked about spending that money ahead of time and hoping the grant could refund it if it meant we didn't have to deal with the price increase. So
Remind us again where that money's coming from?
So we have, I believe, 30,000, and it's coming out of the Friendship Street School Capital Fund and what was left in that.
Right.
But we needed 71,165, so we're looking for another 41,165, and I guess not all of that. So that's installation and wood chips and the whole thing. The price of, I don't know what he needs right away, but the price of the material was 52,500. So either way, we're still short on that. So I didn't know, do you want to push forward now without the price increase, or do we hold off until we know more about the grant?
If we do this out of fund balance, I'm assuming number one, the money's there. And number two, if we don't get the grant, is there a way of recouping over time the loan from fund balance?
If we don't get the grant,
If we don't get,
how would you recoup it?
I'm open to
Yeah.
suggestions.
That's your option, is using fund balance, or because we've surpassed the time for Friendship Street, the sale of Friendship Street School, that has lapsed to fund balance. And you left considerable amount of money that we did not designate from the Friendship Street School.
So that money's still out there.
That money is still out there. But again, that's your decision. That's why we brought it to you, because we don't have a firm feeling or inkling on the grant. So, but what was the increase he told you we could expect?
He said he didn't know what it would be, but he said there's an increase every year. So he did not have an exact.
We were talking about using that Friendship Street School money for other things as well. I think Max can probably.
The Willie Adelgia, right?
The Woolly Adelgid.
Yeah.
That was actually, we approved that through town meeting.
Yep.
But because there was pressing issues you wanted to utilize, if you'll recall, so that had to go to town meeting because it wouldn't have lapsed to fund balance by then.
Is that the only claim on the Friendship Street School sale proceeds?
It was what we voted on in town meeting.
I thought there was also the sign.
The sign.
Right, no. What I'm saying is what we approved at that time was only a portion of the proceeds, so
Right.
that the other proceeds have not been
Designated.
designated. I think we used a third.
So there's more than enough there to cover.
If you wanted to use fund balance,
One or two steps.
Friendship Street School has rolled to fund balance. But I'm not, again, that's going to be that's a select board decision.
This was roughly $55,000, you said, and is that correct?
So the price of the equipment is 52,500. The total,
52,500.
including they would install it and the wood chips to lay the groundwork. The total comes to 71,165.
Okay, and he gave you no inkling as to the
The increase.
the percent increase?
No, the email he sent me last week said that if, you know, if we postponed past this meeting, basically, because I told them to wait till Tuesday, that there would be an increase, but he didn't know what it would be at this time.
You know, I'll bet there are a lot of people in this town that would contribute money out of their own generosity to have a playground set up for them. I'd prefer to keep the Friendship School funds untapped for this. And maybe we could go ahead with it. Go ahead with the purchase order. If it comes in a little over, maybe we can
Do a
benefactors in the
fundraiser
town.
for-
Yeah,
I guess one question I have is if we didn't get the grant. If we didn't get it, if they said no, would we go ahead with this? Was our intention to go ahead with it? If we
Well,
did get the-
part of my problem is you're gonna have to use the funds because I can't commit unless you approve the funds.
I know, get that. I was just talking about intention. The impression I'm getting, it was a done deal. We were gonna do it no matter what. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but that was my impression.
From the original.
before my time.
Yeah, that's before.
When we sold Friendship Street School, we did say we would replace the playground.
We did.
We did say that.
Yep, that was the only open public playground in town.
Yep.
The school has one, but it's not open to the public during school hours.
Just asked how much the grant was, it's 25,000, so that's what you're talking about.
Is it 25,000?
That's what we were looking to get. It's the Hannaford Charitable Foundation.
Oh, for purposes of discussion, I'll make a motion. The motion is that we go ahead with the purchase and the installation for $71,165 based on the current offer. And that if we're not successful in obtaining the grant monies from Hannaford, that we attempt a fundraiser to see if we can't recoup some of that money. That's a good idea.
But in the meantime, you'll use fund balance to cover. it.
Yes.
Right. Second,
Second.
any more discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
10.8 water utility rate discussion.
We were informed at our last water committee meeting that there is a state law now that will allow municipal utilities like the water utility that we operate to have an increase of 1.5% of the rate every year without going before the PUC. And I don't know how many, I don't think anybody sitting on the board is a ratepayer in the water district. Well, actually, I know one is, but he's not here. But if you'll recall, John and Mike, this was before your time. I think, Will, it was even before your time. We had a significant rate increase for water in Waldeboro.
Yeah.
And part of the reason was that in 15, 20 years, they'd never increased the rate. And that we were suffering because of that. And then when they had to increase the rate, we went up 18% over 4 years. So if there had been an automatic increase, that would have been a lot easier for people to take versus I think it was 6% each year or 6%. I know we split it up somehow. I don't recall. But we wanted to make you aware of that's an option. And the water committee will be making recommendations as to what rate increases should be. But they were very much supportive of doing something like this on an annual basis versus having to do a rate study and then taking it to the PUC and getting far behind like we have in the past.
Rate setting applications are painful. They're always painful. So think I chair the water committee. I'm in favor of this. With a caveat. And that one caveat is, the bonds for the creation of the water system are going to be paid in full in 2026. And, given that there will no longer be debt service payments, for those bonds, that we review any vote we take to institute this policy.
My concern is capital costs that come up over 5 to 10 year periods, and I know we had some issues around that.
There's almost no capital reserve.
Yeah.
It would be nice if those funds were earmarked that come off of debt service to go into capital.
Yeah,
Go to capital.
that would help.
Well, we're looking at tax increases and I'm very sensitive to that as well. You know, if we can give a break on the rate, the water rate, for that. But I just want to revisit it again. If we vote on this, I want to make sure that we revisit it after the bonds. are
But
paid.
we're not voting on doing an increase tonight. It's
No,
just purely informational for
discussion.
you. Any rate increase would come as a recommendation from the
From the
water committee.
water committee.
Yes,
Well, I think what they're suggesting makes total sense.
Well, it's
And if-
something that
if
was
that's
new.
something
We've
they
never
want-
had that
No,
opportunity in the
yeah,
past.
We've never had the,
And if we do it once, it doesn't mean we're committed to do it every year, but it's just letting you know we'll have that capability.
10.9, we covered already. That's the contract between Friendship and Waldeboro, and 10.10, the elections of the MRC board. Now defer this to Bob.
yeah. I sent out PDFs to everybody. Probably Monday, I guess, maybe, no, wasn't last week, anyway. There's a ballot the MRC's sent to each of its 150 member towns.
See you, Bob.
Asking them to vote for one of 4 people who've been put forward to sit on the board. And each town gets a vote for every 100 tons of municipal solid waste they send up. So the question is, and there are biographies on the back that describe the candidates. Of the 4, one is not currently on the board. That's Paula Scott from the town of Hampton. The other 3 are on the board: Melissa Doan, a town manager of Bradley, Kevin Howell, a town manager of Carmel, and Sophie Wilson, a town manager of Orono. So, you have any preference? So
I defer the recommendations of Bob.
I feel awkward making a recommendation because I sit on the board.
So why is the new person running?
She's a citizen of Hamden. And Camden is where the facility is located. And I don't think they've ever had a voice on the board. I could be wrong, though. Don't take that to the bank, because I haven't been on the board as long as some people have. So there may well have been someone from Hampton who's on the board.
But everybody who is currently there would like to stay.
Yes. And one of them, Sophie, is a treasurer. And she's been dynamite. So Melissa is on the MMA board, and she's been very, very proactive. And Kevin, I mean, he's involved in all kinds of stuff, and all of that. I don't know why I'm sitting on the board. I mean, all of that lends to the knowledge base they bring to the job. So, yeah.
When do they have to have this in?
By the end of this month. We're gonna have a meeting on December 6th, at which the results are announced. Yeah, November 30th.
How many spots?
There are 3 seats available, but we're only voting for
We're only
one
voting for
person.
one.
Yeah. Weird, but that's the way they do it.
So you don't want to pick just the one you would vote for?
Yeah, I look at it like this.
You're
If
on
you're
the board.
getting 100, if you're getting a vote for every 100 tons you put in, the bigger towns like Orono or Hampton already have a lot of votes.
Right.
The smaller towns don't have the votes. So
I would vote for the treasurer then, because they're hard to find.
So, if you're using that as your crux, your basis, then Bradley and Orono would be at the forefront. And Orono is bigger than Bradley, and they've got the university there.
The school, yeah.
So they send a fair amount of stuff in.
Well, then I would go for the little town like us.
Like Bradley.
It's so hard.
Okay.
It's up to you guys, but I'm just
Sure.
saying.
Is there a motion? It would be Melissa Doan if she's the one who chooses to go.
I'll make a motion
What's your motion, Mike?
to elect
Melissa
Melissa
Dillon.
Dillon.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I'm abstaining.
Bob will abstain. So
I'll
Melissa
give
did.
these papers to Pam because she.
Old business. Code violation update. Code enforcement. Welcome back.
Bad pennies back. All right, we had 3 violations that we're bringing back to you. The first one is 19 Hope Road. That's Tim Dodge's place. I did talk to him. We had a very good conversation. He unfortunately admits he's bit off more than he can chew with trying to bring that building down. He has tried. He did get himself a mini excavator. Unfortunately, that is not capable of doing the type of demolition work that is needed on that property. So he has decided to sell the property. So I did talk to him. He advised that the sale was supposed to go through, but the buyer has COVID. So they're kind of holding off on the closing. So the buyer does know with the restrictions of trying to bring that building down. So he did not release who the buyer was, but I told him, once it goes through, and I'd be in touch with him when we could follow through. But and I thanked him for, his efforts in trying to do that. 377 Miller Road. I met with Mr. Brewer. He's basically done nothing to his property since actually this spring. He refused to accept the order to appear. I left it on his doorstep. He was quite upset and vocal. He's showing little interest in cleaning up a lot at all. And I think that at this point, he is not going to move forward on doing anything to that. The third property is 225 North Nobleboro Road. I did speak to Mr. Vanner. He's making progress, actually moving out cars. He's moving them out front of his property and they're hauling them off one by one. It is slow, but he has done what is asked. It may not be as fast as what we may like, but he is making progress and I applauded him for that. So he asked if he could get more time to get the rest of the automobiles. He has complied with cleaning up his lot line with his neighbor. He's done that. He's got a bunch, I would say well over half, if not 2/3 of the vehicles that need to be removed. So I'm encouraged and I would like to work with him and continue that effort. So the only one that that we have issues with is 377 Miller Road.
What's the nature of the violation there?
He has, at one point, he had 200 tires on his property. There's probably still 75 to 100 tires on the property. There was an old business that used to be run as far as auto mechanics and that type of stuff. There are old campers on the property. There is trash and stuff everywhere. And he did move out a couple of vehicles. He had somebody haul away 2 of the vehicles that were on the property. But since that point in time, he's done absolutely nothing with trying to clean it up. He was very irate that the town was harassing him.
And this was based on a complaint we received.
Yes, this dates back to
Right, this is-
when Stan Waltz was here. That's, I took that over from Stan. So
This is a,
we've given all 3 of these people, we've given them 2 extensions. And I'm more than willing to work with anybody that's moving in the right direction. And I applaud both Tim and Mr. Vanna for, for their efforts in doing what they're doing. And I'll continue to work with them because they're making progress and they're trying. I don't see any effort coming from, Mr. Brewer.
So is your next step to assess fines and penalties? Because
That would be something that I would look to the board for advice as far as moving forward. I don't know if fines are going to encourage him anymore. I think it will go on deaf ears. But it's a start. Maybe it will.
That's a good question. If you have a cleanup situation like that and they refuse to clean it up, is there any legal means for the town to just say, okay, we're gonna clean it up and then charge them? Possible?
We can do that and assess, their lot, so that we put a lien on it for that. But it becomes, we can barely keep up with everything that Public Works is doing now. To put that on theirs, we would probably have to hire an outside contractor to do that. And then it becomes a sticking matter of, okay, well, what gets removed and what doesn't? And I can tell you that there's been verbal threats from that individual, and there's been other police matters at that property, and I won't go into detail, but it's a bad situation, so.
Can we assume he does not talk to his neighbors?
I don't think we need to go there.
Okay. They might have some persuasion because they're neighbors.
I don't think
Okay.
we should go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just seems that, finding somebody and he's not gonna comply is a lot worse than hiring someone to clean it up.
Well, there's a lot of legal ramifications
That's
to
what I was
whatever
asking.
we're gonna do, so I just think that we can prepare, maybe Mark can prepare some options for you
I
for the
think
next meeting.
that's probably the best bet is, let's see what our next steps could be, where we can know exactly what we can and can't do. Mike?
I would just like to offer a suggestion, having participated in some of this. There are people who have real problems with hoarding and just stuff accumulating, and I've participated in voluntary cleanups, hauling materials to the dump. And we've actually had funding for dumpsters. So if this is an issue of having the means to get this work done, or whether it's just stubbornness, if it's an issue of means, there is an avenue there.
I'm willing to have another conversation with him, but the last time I talked to him, I was kicked off the property. So I don't know how amicable he's going to be at having a discussion, but I'm more than willing to try.
Leave him a note with, talk to me, leave him a note and I'll give you the information.
Sounds like we're hearing though,
Well,
the hoarder mentality and it's a mental illness.
Well, I don't know that it's that.
well, that's it. That's simple speculation. That's absolute speculation, but CHIP has a means for determining eligibility. So, and
I'll have Mark prepare options and for the next meeting. We can have Mark prepare.
That all you got?
That's it.
You're good then.
thank you.
It's
You guys still have an assessors, board of assessors after this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Items for the next meeting.
The auditors are coming, the
Auditors.
auditors are coming.
That's it, right? I think that's it.
I think we had something else. I've given Pam some things, but nothing major. I think that'll be enough. And we'll have an update on Old Augusta Road for you. For the
And the
Kramer
intersection,
and the intersection. I may have that
the
one.
four-way stop signs. And everything. Yeah.
And Mark said he was gonna have a draft on the camper.
And a draft.
A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
That said, we are adjourned from the select board meeting. Now we're gonna move into the board of.
If you don't mind, I've been up since 4:30. I'm going to excuse myself at this point.
I don't need to report.
Yeah, you need to leave the recording. Yeah, for this is, you get this recorded, right?
Sure.
So I don't have to stay for
Let me
this.
just check with them. Oh, yeah.
Like, you run this meeting, right?
You?
You're the chair of the.
I'm totally inexperienced at this, so I may need some help.
6 signatures here.
You wanna do it after?
You can do it after, but can you put it on my desk?
Yep.
The folder?
You'll be here tomorrow?
Yes.
Anybody need an agenda?
Well, I've got a list of requesting the.
Yeah, just this one here, just follow that order right there.
Just stamp it.
I think so.
I don't see where my signature needs to be. But we can look at it more tomorrow. Are you guys good?
Do we have the minutes in here?
I have them here for signature.
Okay. Call to order. Hey. The citizens have all left, so I guess there's no citizens' comments. And approve the consent calendar. And that is the minutes of which were just put in front of me.
I make a motion to approve that consent calendar 3.1.
Second.
All in favor?
So half the taxes are due tomorrow, and to get in, these are basically to some cleanups. The top ones are personal property. First three are out of business is a 21, 22, 23. Brewer's Auto is the Mr. Brewer you were just talking about, and he closed down, so I recommend getting his 23s off the books. Taxed 3 tractors. One was Gary Holmes. He borrowed from a brother-in-law. It wasn't his. Didn't get any response, so I sent a bill. The other was Nick DePatsy's. He's borrowed from the Green Thumb. Wasn't his tractor. And the number down to the bottom, Ronald Davis came in and has a bill of sale where the tractor was owned by the Madomic Exchange. The other one that was out of business was the studio on Main Street, Mary Mabry. So I don't know if you want to do personal and then real estate, or you can do them one at a time, or however you want to do it.
I would suggest we do personal, and this is very straightforward.
Yeah.
I would be so bold as to move that we accept all of the suggested abatements under 4.1.
Personal property.
Yeah, personal property.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? That was easy.
Real estate's almost as easy, but the first one, Abden and April, sold the place across from there is 34.5 less. It's where Dave Cole used to live. If you're familiar with that, it's in pretty poor shape. The guy did move down from Freedom and is staying in the little tiny places where the lights are on, but the house needs a lot of work. Recommend that it be considered 20% unfinished. Would take 390 off on that one.
We need to motion individually for these?
Or the others are two homesteads. Nancy Russell lives in Connecticut, but the trust is actually for her daughter, Sarah, that lives there. So I shouldn't have taken it away when Nancy got into a Connecticut nursing home. And then Eric Starks, I had his application. It was buried in my desk, so he didn't get his. And then the other two are two surveys. One was 21 acres, not 31, and the other one was 13 and not 15, so you can do them all at once.
So I'm taking that you recommend all of these numbers. Yeah. I'd make the motion that we accept all the abatement requests under 4.2 for real estate.
One second.
Any further discussion? Okay.
The only
All in
other
favor?
thing I have, other than adjourning, which you obviously can, is we had talked about when do we want to do a land reval? Basically, land values can double based on the market, but the state came in with the ratio. State valuation is always 2 years behind. And we are safe another year with a 93 under residential, 96 under waterfront. So we can hold a year, or we can go ahead and I can work on land values and get you a new schedule. What's your pleasure?
Are you doing land only?
Land only.
So it won't include people that have residents and then you,
Well, yes, your land portion of your,
right, so you,
so all land,
All land.
everybody. But those that have just land saw a decrease.
saw a
because they didn't
decrease
change.
because it didn't change, yeah.
It would hurt you whenever you reval. The other towns that don't reval, you pay more in the subsidies. Some towns still haven't revaled their buildings. They're working on it, but whatever you think, we can do it now and put it forth, or you can wait a year.
What's your recommendation?
It really, it's gonna be the town benefit to wait a year. Yet there would be more equalized if you change the values
Sooner rather than later.
if you're okay that land is getting a deal. Doesn't put kids in school and doesn't have a lot of service, then fine, it's on the residents, but
It does impact fire departments.
or you can think about it. I mean, we got plenty of time. That's all that I have. Something to think about.
There, it's on you.
Did we take the vote on 4.2 first?
I don't think we.
No, we
We
didn't.
did.
Yes, you did. 4-2. It was all
Okay.
unanimous, 4-0.
Okay, I think everybody put their hand up, even
Yes.
though I didn't call the question.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll table this for the time being until I can figure out what I'm looking at.
Yep.
I may stop by for.
Sure.
So I guess
So
I'll
I
make
can
the,
motion to.
I'll make the motion to table that until.
Okay.
Discussion.
Yeah,
Till our next assessment
Next-
meeting.
Yeah,
Second. Or did you-
all in favor?
okay, it's tabled. I'll make motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Will second it or anybody?
Yeah,
Everybody. You can sign those tonight, or we can sign them another time, your choice.
And don't leave until.
That was good.
Probably
Strike
on the
the way I
very
was
back.
like,
Yes.
I have
Okay,
no
do we have
idea.
to sign each one of the, I
But
guess
this
we
was a
do.
public meeting.
Yeah.
So I guess I can put it up.
Jan
Yes.
Lindsay is still down here
Do I know how?
and Jen Griesenbrock.
Because they were there back in
NB
June.
for all.
Okay, all right.
So I guess I
Okay.
need.
Okay, all
All
right.
right,
So
you
there
can
we
do
go.